Good day to you, all the Rainbow Radio listeners. I've thought gonna do an insert where we're gonna chat to one or two ward councillors, those of course who is willing to avail themselves to come online and chat to us about what their plans are after or should they be elected in the upcoming local government elections. I've got one such ward councillor on the line with me. He's known in our community. He's also a DJ by sometimes by profession. I've got none other than Mr. Alistair Lightburn with me on the line. Mr. Councillor Alistair Lightburn, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm blessed, Uthman, and also a very, very good morning to the Rainbow Radio listeners. The podcast. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be with you this morning.
Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank you for availing yourself for the time. But I know you were busy, man. I thought I could do this at some other point. But yeah, as you've mentioned, it will be in a podcast form, so there's absolutely no live listener interaction. But of course, once this thing gets uploaded, we, the listeners, would obviously still be able to pose those questions. And I want to jump right into it, Mr. Lightburn. Atlantis, as we know, is a poverty-stricken community. And one of the things that I thought of, and maybe we can just have this as an informal discussion, I do think that the power of the consumers, we've got no power in the economics of our community. And one such thing that I thought of, what is the possibility that the residents of this town can have more say into the economic growth? What are your plans? What is the DA's plans with regards to such thing?
Um, what is important is, Uthman, I think you've mentioned a very contentious issue in terms of all the money that is being plowed into that is supporting businesses in Atlantis is going outside Atlantis.
Mm.
Um, Not plowing back. And I think one of the things that I would like to take on being, if I'm elected as a ward councillor, especially in Ward 29, which covers the Central Business Development Area, it's the CBD.
Yes.
That I would like to start up we call it the CITs, the Central Improvement Districts,
Mm-hmm.
whereby the ratepayers and people along that is giving a bit of extra, but also making sure that we safeguard our resources in Atlantis. And I think through that sit, it will also allow people then to put development plans together. You know me, I'm for one that craves on public participation and involvement.
Yes.
So it's important. It mustn't be a top-down approach, but it should be a bottom-up approach. And I will also encourage residents to start ratepayers associations, because I
Perfect.
think if you look into other areas, ratepayers associations keeps ward councillors accountable,
I've
and
noticed
and I
that.
think that is yeah, and I think that should be our way forward.
Mm-hmm.
This thing about going to the streets, protesting all along, burning infrastructure, is not gonna help us, because a lot of the taxpayers' money then has to go back to those areas and needs to redevelop or repair and renovate those areas. But I think what is important, um, I for certainly for one, if being elected as a ward councillor, I'll take my cue from residents, and that is important. Also in terms of SMMEs and development, I think we have the capacity in Atlantis and Mamre and Pala. It's just a matter of making sure that if if SMMEs is not compliant, let us then start a program to get them compliant, and so that they can also partake in the economy. Because if you don't allow the locals to partake in the economy, we're gonna sit where we are at this point in time in terms of poverty. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
because there's people that is normally just gonna be your general laborers, normal laborers, general workers. There is The potential is so promising in Atlantis, and we have the intellectual capital to make Atlantis the great Atlantis, because I think that is important for me. So yeah, through the sits, I will try to along with the residents, because I'm as an individual cannot affect change. We will have to work together, and that's why we have to reach a hand out to one another to work together, and take Atlantis forward.
Thank you so much for that answer, Mr. Lightburn. You've also actually also already answered another question I would have asked about the involvement of residents in the decision-making process of our town. We know that the Democratic Alliance, as a party as a whole, they look. How can I say? They're not locally based, and you coming in if you get elected as the ward councillor, the approach that you have really resonates with me. I think the involvement of the public is a key point. Another question, and people have been sort of disgruntled about the way they've been treated when they went to go into occupied lands. I know just occupying state-owned land is a no-no in the city. There's a zero tolerance for that. But a question to you. Will your party, will the DA fund affordable, accessible and inclusive housing for the people of color in particular?
We Uthman, you don't even have to raise this question. It's non-negotiable. We have to, because at the end of the day, it's about making sure that we get people that is staying in backyard, that we get them into affordable, inclusionary housing, and through various models. And I think we had the provincial minister of human settlements 2 weeks ago in Atlantis, where we spoke about this thing at length, making sure that we provide housing of dignity to our residents. And I think what is important is that you have a different mix of types of housing within Atlantis. And I think what we've done is, and I don't want to blame COVID for it,
Mm-hmm.
um, but a lot of stuff has had been put on the back burner, like the gap housing that is in Robinvale and Protea Park that needs to happen. That is for people that doesn't qualify for a free, like your, it was called back then the RDP house, but it's now called the Breaking New Ground housing project.
Okay.
You know, that,
Mm-hmm.
that, that, that those are people that is employed. They earn in the brackets of 3,501 rand up till 12,000 or whatsoever, and they can't get a loan, but they qualify for the FLIS and also for gap housing. We want to nurture and cultivate a culture where we also uplift and empower local developers in our area. And I think with the gap housing, there's certain stages that where there's also a stage where local developers can get 50, maybe 50 example, 50 plots. They need to develop it. They get a beneficiary list and to see who is qualifying, and then they build their houses to the people, but they also take part in the construction of those houses. So I
Okay.
think for me, it's non-negotiable. We have to have inclusionary, affordable housing for our people.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that question. You listening to Rainbow Radio. For those of you who have just joined us, thank you so much for tuning in. This is obviously a podcast where I'm recording the session with Ward Councillor candidate Mr. Alistair Lightburn, who stands for the Democratic Alliance for Ward 29. Alistair, probably just one last question before I let you go. You've mentioned early on one question that you've answered about burning infrastructure. Now, we've seen this happening more frequently, especially in our Cape Town areas, where, how can I put it, infrastructure gets built for transportation, gets burned down. The city then goes and spends more money on to refurbish or replace that kind of infrastructure. How do you feel about the transport options currently available in our city? Do we have enough options? If not, what will you do to increase those?
I think let me be frank. Let me speak to Atlantis
Mm-hmm.
first. Take it local, contextualize Atlantis. I think there is there is possibilities that the taxi industry along with the my city can coexist. You
Okay.
know, there is room for both to operate within the realms of Atlantis and our neighboring towns. So for me, it's a matter of I've been part of the transport portfolio this last 2 years. And I was one of these people that have advocated that there should be a place, an opportunity made also for taxi operators to operate uh, in areas where the MyCity is also operating, because these taxi operators also feed. They should be used as feeders to the MyCity, but also they have also their routes where the MyCity doesn't commute.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't travel, that operate in that area. So I think um, also in terms of Uthman, in Cape Town, if you look into the railway system, the metro rail,
Mm-hmm.
it's non-existent. The central line is non-existent. I used to grow up and traveling on those trains to Simonstown Beach with
Mm,
my family, with my grandfather,
mm.
and also traveling to Leyvers, which where I also reside in with my grandfather. And I think those lines it's demolished. It's done, and there's nothing. Even people is occupying, uh, erecting sacks on
On
the
these
railway
lines, I've
lines.
seen pictures of those
Yes,
on the
yes,
news. Yes.
yes. So for me, and this is why I support my party saying, let's devolve some powers and functions to the provincial government and see how we can assist and getting this metro rail online again, so that it's efficient. Because still, uh, 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 there's still challenges within the public transport sector.
Mm-hmm.
And by putting heads together and coming together and discuss the challenges and leaving the party politics outside of it, and say this is for our residents and this is for our commuters to make their journey easier. And I think that we can win with that, because then we're creating a win-win situation for our commuters, because at the end of the day, it's the public that suffers
Yes,
outside.
yes. Thank you so much for that answer, there, Mr. Lightburn. Alistair, we know you're a local guy. You a local boy from. How do you always put it? You are a boy of the soil. Soil. How do you put it? You had a
Son
term.
of the
A
soil,
son
son
of
of
the
the soil,
soil. There
son
we
of the
go.
soil.
Sorry for not for misquoting you there. And for me personally, I think it's very important to have a ward councillor who walks our streets, who suffers with us if a sewage drain overflows, who actually knows that a floodlight is out, instead of having to call out or struggle to reach out to him. I want to compliment you. I've done this before, but I want to do it officially here.
Mhm.
That you're always accessible, you're always available, and you'll find a way of connecting a person. I had an issue at home last month sometime, and you directed or forwarded emails through to the relevant parties, and for that I need to commend you on. You live in Atlantis. How important do you think it is, or probably not even important? Your colleague who stands for Ward 32 does not reside in the area. How do you think a ward councillor candidate who does not live in the area can either affect positively or negatively the plight of the people, the calls for the people for assistance?
I can say this to you, Uthman. I share the sentiment that residents have over my colleague that is not residing in Ward 32. But I can assure you, in terms of passion, energy, I'm gonna make one example. Councillor Angus Mackenzie doesn't stay in Bonteheuwel. He
Mm-hmm.
grew up in Bonteheuwel, right? He stays in Pero. But the people, he's the go-to person in Bonteheuwel in terms of service delivery and other challenges within the community of or in the ward that he is the ward councillor. And I can say the same of Councillor Musa Reis.
Mm,
Councillor Musa Reis doesn't necessarily stays here, but his heart beats. He goes home maybe sometimes 10 o'clock in the evenings out of Atlantis.
mm,
And this is not something that I'm thumb sucking or what. I've seen it myself. I've experienced it myself, and especially the way how he interacts with the residents of Ward 32. Ward 32 will be blessed to have a person of that caliber as their ward councillor. And make no mistake, Udman, as you know me, I will also keep him accountable if he needs to step out of line,
Mm-hmm.
because Atlantis or this area is too much important, and we have to be ambitious in the next term
Mm-hmm.
of office to put Atlantis really on the map and to say, how do we create a greater Atlantis or sub council one area? And that is important for me. I don't want to build the speed bumps and infrastructure stuff. We also want to make sure that we develop our people, because people development is something that is very close to my heart. And I
Mm-hmm.
think with Councillor Ray's coming also from corporate, because he used to be an ex-educator.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be a manager at Old Mutual,
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, it's a matter of he's bringing all those qualities and expertise. He's bringing on board to really, and he is a people's person because he engaged with people. So, like I'm saying, Ward 32 will be blessed if they elect Councillor Race, and I can tell you that his heart is beating for Atlantis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lightburn. Just one or two more points before I let you go. There was another question. What did I want to know? There was something I wanted to know from you. But first and foremost, before I get to that question, I want to wish you all the best of luck for the upcoming elections on 1 November. And I know I've seen another interview where you said you don't do gutter politics, you don't do mudslinging, and you actually went and wished all candidates well. I want to wish you well, and I really hope that the best man gets elected for the position, especially in Atlantis. We need ward councillors who's really there for our people. One last question, Mr. Lightburn, and it's probably a bit off topic. Wat die hel gaat aan by Manchester United?
Um, Usman, why do you want this blue Monday? Usman, I think what is it? Usman, what I think is what we have messed up. We didn't buy a central midfielder,
Okay.
a holding defensive midfielder that links up with the players, because you have all the firing power.
Yes.
You have all the firing power, but you can't provide that firing power in front,
I
that
hear you.
potent attack.
I hear
So
you.
so I think also I'm gonna be frank and honest with you. I think Ole's time is up at
Mm.
Manchester United,
I
because
say
in
those
terms of
those views.
tactics, yeah, the tactics that he's using, and you can't sit on the bench while your team is 2-1 behind or 1-0 behind. You need to interact on the field, along the field.
Mm-hmm.
But I, as a diehard Manchester United supporter, I'll back my team any given day.
Okay.
We're having the Mercy side, the red, the loving fools derby coming up
Yes.
with us, the rivalry, the guys of the cop. But we turn up for matches like that.
Yes,
We
those big
turn up
ones.
because we crave for that matches. But I think it's a matter of we did great acquisitions, but it's just one area where we failed miserably, and that is to buy a defensive holding midfielder that can link up play with between the defense and the forwards. So I think that is. But I'll win or lose. I'll stay my Red Devil.
Of course. No,
So and
that's
I wear it proudly. I wear it proudly.
I see. I know. I noticed. Win or lose, you always get dressed in your Manchester United gear, and yeah, it's something that one can commend you on, Mr. Lightburn. I really thank you for your time this morning. You've got to go. I know you've got a busy week or two ahead before the elections. Once again, I want to wish you all the best of luck. But always such a pleasure chatting to you, getting your thoughts, getting your viewpoints, and thank you for coming on this morning.
Udman, if I can just say one thing before I leave, I want to say thank you to you. First of all, to the residents, to the voters out there. There's only three things that I'm promising. Three things. The first thing is to be a accessible and responsive ward councillor. That is the first thing that I promise. The second thing that I promise is that I will be humble, humility, but also being honest. Even if feedback is negative, I will give you feedback, regular feedback, as a voter or as a resident of Ward 29. Then the third thing is making sure that we create effective partnerships. It is a partnership between the ward councillor and the residents of Ward 29. And through the ward committees, I commit myself. There's normally nine people on that ward committee that represents different sectors like sports, education. I commit myself that I will have sectorial meetings, not just a member that is on that sector that is representing the ward committee, the sector on the ward committee. I will have meetings with the different sectors so that at the end of the day that we are on the same page. And it's not just Atlantis, it's Mamre and it's Pella, the constituents that have elected me. So I think that is what I wanted to say, Utman. But thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, Lester, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for giving us also those very three important points. I really want to wish you all the best of luck. You must go out and, like I know you've got backing of many of our residents, and I'm certain you will do a great job if elected into this position. All the best, my brother.
Thank you, Utman. Keep well. Bye bye.
See you. Well, that was Ward Councillor candidate Alistair Lightburn. I always love chatting to the guy, getting his viewpoints, and I thank you for tuning in to this podcast. It will questions, of course, you are welcome to post those, and I will make sure that Alistair Lightburn gets those questions, and obviously he will be able to respond or reply to any of your questions, comments, or concerns. But thank you for tuning in. We will be back with another session very, very shortly. Do not touch your wireless.